Okay, I'm ready now.
I really liked our song selection before we started the podcast today. It was a little Toto. I went out and got a coffee, and then I love Willie Nelson.
That's a rare one. I feel like he's underappreciated.
He's so good. And I don't think he's a great singer.
No,
but he just puts the words and everything together.
Very unique.
So always on my mind. I gotta whistle that all day.
Yeah, that's what we were listening to.
Yeah,
I like the playlist selection before we do the podcast.
Yeah, I know it's fun. Gets you in the mood.
Vibes. Yeah, it's good vibes. Yeah,
Gets us in the mood.
So you want to start with your thing first?
I want to start with this. So I'm gonna preface this whole thing today because you look great with your Saginaw shirt.
Yeah.
So you're
not bad.
That was. Tell me how you got that one. I know how you got it, but this is for little dudes out there.
Yeah. So our boy Seabass, who we like to pump his tires a lot. Sebastian Gervais, that plays for Saginaw, as you may notice. He, I think his dad and his brother went over for the home opener. Well, their family went over, and his brother brought me back the shirt and a hat too, actually.
Yeah.
Courtesy
That's
of
not a Saginaw hat.
This isn't the hat. If you're watching the video,
you didn't want to look like a super fan.
No, because I'm not a super fan. But this is the one time I tell you this because I think we're on the same page with wearing logo shit and whatever. I don't like doing that.
Yeah.
But for my boy Seabass, just sporting a little gitch here. So thanks for the shirt.
Saginaw spirit.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
That's a really nice T-shirt, by the way.
It's decent.
What was I was just going to say something about that. Oh, yeah. So you got a T-shirt. So here's my issue with this. Okay, and I hope and Andre and the family will be listening. Nice that you got a T-shirt.
I know, eh?
Like I was teasing Andre all summer because for people that may have heard this before, Seabass spent his entire summer at PowerTech with Charlie. And spent many nights at our house and argued with his parents about going up to the cottage to
vacate
to vacate and enjoy life a little bit. He was determined on making the team. So what happened was I became his actual dad for the summertime. Yep. I'm not even joking. Andre's a terrible dad. And he called me on it and he was feeling bad. And I said, well, if you actually cared about your kid, you'd spend time with him. But he spent time with me. So they go to a freaking hockey game and they bring you. Like, yes, you did wonders for him this summer. But
it's your gym.
Dude.
It's your place.
Well, why don't I get a T-shirt? You know?
I'll make sure to send this to Seabass.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
I'll make sure he sees it.
You know, and then Brian Prout, who's a very good friend of mine. I mean, I put the kid on a platter for it, and I don't get a T-shirt. He said he's going to give me a bunch of beers when I go.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't mind a T-shirt.
Yeah, T-shirts are nice.
Yeah, nice. It's actually really nice.
I like because you actually gave me the Guelph shirt too that you got from when you went up with Charlie.
George gave it to me.
Yeah,
he said go pick anything. Yeah. So this is one of the things. When Charlie went up there to sign and get his equipment and stuff like that, that was in July. He said he brought us upstairs and he said just grab whatever you want. So I'm just not that guy. I'm not a take guy. So I felt and I felt like okay, I have to actually act. I was excited, but I got to act like I actually want something. So I picked out like the best, not the cheapest, but it was a good logo. Guelph Storm, loved
nice shirt.
Great shirt.
Good quality.
But I'm not going to be the guy. Like there might be the odd thing that I wear once in a while.
Yep.
By default, but I'm not going to go around saying Guelph Storm, my son.
Yeah, I'm like that too.
Yeah,
not super fan. Like I'll wear it like in here or like around my house or whatever, but I would never wear it out.
Yeah.
Necessarily, but
my wife will wear a sweatshirt.
Yeah, it's different for moms though.
I know.
It's different for moms.
Grammy likes to get dressed up. You'd think she owns the Grammy, and she listens to this, right? And she said I gave
Grammy
her.
does?
Yeah.
Does she really? Hey, Grammy, what's up?
Yeah, she's great. She's a great fan.
That's
and
good.
She goes. I guess last week she goes, "Hey, thanks for the shout out." I think I was carving her a bit.
Yeah.
So, but Grammy gets the sweater on and the blanket and everything she can on, and it's great. She loves it. She watched Charlie growing up playing hockey, and she really enjoyed the games and stuff. But like, this is a whole different. You dropped something. This is a whole different. I got it.
You got it.
This is a whole different level for her because it's huge, right?
Yeah.
And she just loves it. And the nights that we don't we brought her to Guelph a couple times, and well, you were with her the one time.
Yeah.
And with Charlie's
And they're
great
tight too,
uncles.
eh? Like they
Who?
do Grammy and Charlie. Like they do stuff together. They go golfing together. They hang out together.
Awesome.
They do. Yeah, it's awesome,
Awesome.
man. That's great.
Awesome. And then his papa, her husband, passed away 2 years ago. My father-in-law.
Yeah,
And they were tight too. They were great. It was a really nice dynamic.
yeah, that's great.
She, and, you know, we go to Guelph or Mississauga. She watches a game, and she's got a bag of cookies for him.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
you know, the boys
That's
love
cool.
it. And it's great. She's a great Grammy.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
awesome.
She
That's awesome.
loves it. So on Friday nights or whatever, when we don't go to the game, we invite her over to watch, and she comes over. She has a glass of wine, and she loves it. She's part of it, and I love the fact that she feels part of it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
You know,
man.
it
That's
takes
great.
a family it takes a village to raise an idiot, and we've raised an idiot.
Yeah,
You know, I mean,
yeah,
something like that.
No, that's awesome though, man.
Yeah, it is. It's great. It's nice. You know, like that's what I told Charlie when I coached him in minor Adam or major Adam or whatever it was, and we won the Ontario championships, and so we were filling the Essex Arena.
Oh yeah.
And I told the kids, I said, like, this is what's so great about the game is like when you actually do something and you get all kinds of people on board and you don't know who it's gonna affect, and it's like it brings communities together when you do this the right way. It's awesome, man.
Yeah, that's
so
cool.
anyways, I digress.
No, that's good. But
Grammy.
I think moral of the story here. We like T-shirts. So any kid,
That's the moral of the story.
if we've helped you in any way and you want to send us a T-shirt,
Wow, come
feel
on.
free.
A T-shirt, man.
Yeah, that's good.
No, it's great. Just had a couple conversations. Had one this morning about one of my kids had to speak to his coach, and I'm going to encourage, because we've had that conversation with a couple players over the last couple weeks, and I want to be clear with kids is like you don't do it because you're bitching and whining and stuff like that, and it's just a really good life skill to learn how to speak to someone that might be might have some authority, might have some power, you might be intimidated by. Is, you know, if things aren't going your way, but things aren't going your way, and I don't want to say it like that, but if there's things that you are questioning or you think you're being treated unfair, or you know, along those lines, is don't be afraid to talk to your coaches, speak to your coaches about the issue, but go there with the intention of making things better. Like assume that you're doing something. Like, don't go in there with the guns blazing. Like, why am I getting treated unfair? Yeah. Go in there with the attitude that there's obviously something wrong or something I could be doing better, and how do I fix it?
Yep.
The squeaky wheel gets the grease, and it's not ass kissing stuff. It's just actually, if you want to get better, that's what you have to do.
Yep.
A lot of the times, you know, sometimes you'll get a coach that doesn't really give you the good feedback or has not a lot to say. But at least you did your part and to do whatever you can about that.
Yeah, it's a big barrier, like for some reason, trying to go talk to your coach. I vividly remember this. We were talking the other day, and getting over that, whatever that internal wall is, of like going to actually initiate a dialogue with your coach is really tough. As a kid, I distinctly remember it, especially when I was a teenager, like playing junior. It's hard to go up to, like you said, a person who has authority over you that can affect you in some way because they have the power. It's hard to go talk to them. And I remember putting off those conversations. Like I was saying to you yesterday, like I can distinctly remember knowing I needed to go talk to him because I would feel better about it if I did.
Yeah.
But pushing it off and all the excuses, like I already know what he's thinking. I already know what he's going to say. And even if you do, every time I've gone to talk to my coach, I always walk out feeling better. At least for a period of time.
Yeah, well, it shows you care.
Yeah, and even if it's a coach I don't like I did it with my one coach in junior, my first coach was the best. He was, for me personally, he was we had a great relationship. I could talk to him. He was easier to talk to. It's never easy to go talk to your coach, but he was easier to go talk to.
Yeah.
And we were on the same page a lot of the time. So I was good talking to him. And my second coach, not even close to on the same page. Couldn't stand the guy. We didn't get along. Our personalities didn't jive at all. And still, when I went and I talked with him, I would feel better coming out of the conversation, even though I would delay doing it. So it's a hard thing. It's hard to have maturity enough to do that. But even if you need, you know, somebody who can run you through the conversation you're going to have beforehand to practice it a little bit if you're nervous or if you're not sure about what you exactly want to say, but not going in there with a bitching and complaining and why aren't you giving me this attitude is a really important point. Like going in and asking for feedback as opposed to asking them to give you stuff. You
Yep.
know, whether it's more playing time, special teams, or whatever. So that's a good, really good point.
Yeah, and the side note on that is like this little topic can benefit coaches and parents as well. From a parent's perspective, it's a great thing to recognize when your kids may be struggling, or it's a normal dinner table thing or a drive home. It's you might be complaining about something or wondering why you didn't get the ice or all this stuff, and then you can have that conversation with your child, and it's a mature one. Not a the worst thing my dad did with me was if things weren't going my way, which wasn't very often, but once you get to junior, things don't go your way. The worst thing that he did to me was make excuses and bitch and cut other people up instead of problem solving. So having a good conversation with your child or your player and asking questions and then talking them through how they can approach this with their coaches and let them do the speaking is a big thing. And then coaches, it's another skill that you can work on and it's important, man. It's important that the coaches actually have conversations, especially when you're below junior hockey, like in youth hockey, being able to, because it's going to happen, right? If you're winning, well, it doesn't really matter. If you're winning and your kid's not the star, you're going to have a conversation with the mid to lower end kids because someone else is getting the ice or whatever. If you're losing, then the coaches know that there's going to be some more complaining and bitching. So coaches should be prepared for that. And when a kid comes up to you or a parent comes up to you and asks you questions, you should be able to have some actual answers and solutions to fix it. Not just you need to be better. You need to be because that's what it used to be. You got to be tougher. You got to be smarter. You got to be faster. You got to work harder. And it means nothing. Yeah. So if you get some tangible things, that's really important. And that's where I go back to always my three things.
And that's why it's also really important as the coach to try to be an effective communicator, because if you are always talking with your guys, like yesterday we had a coach that was in here and I watched all of his players walk by him and he didn't say hi.
Right. Yeah, I know.
And I'm like, that's strange. Like, why? Like, what is that? You know what I mean? What kind of trait is that to have? Yeah. So
it's something.
So if you never talk with your guys, then it's going to be that much harder for them to come and talk to you when there's something going wrong, So it's a relationship. It's like when you have a partner or any kind of dynamic, whether you're a teacher, student, or your partners, or you're talking to a superior, whatever it is, it's a relationship. And relationships are based on the foundation of that is going to be like that communication and that trust and that honesty those types of factors. If you don't establish that with your guys, it's going to make it really difficult for them to come and talk to you when they need to talk to you or when they want to talk to you, because they feel like you're not an approachable person. So as a coach, if you're talking with the guys, and it's not just always about hockey either, like if you can just talk to them like they're your kids or your students or things that aren't about hockey, that relationship building type of stuff, that's the kind of thing that will give them some confidence when they want to come talk to you.
When I coach, every time I've coached, I really have a hard time, and it's probably just my personality. Like let's be honest. For me, it would be always little things. Like during my day when I go to talk to the kids, I'd have something to tell them as a group and as individuals. Like I remember one time, the kids are in the playoffs, and we're expecting a lot from them at this point, right? We're expecting them to put everything on the line. And this is when Carly worked here, and her son was on my team. And I said, I don't really feel like working out today. I said, but you know what we're going to do, Carly? I said, you and I are going to go and kill it right now. We're going to kill it for a 45-minute circuit, sweat. Don't feel like doing it. Because when we talk to the kids tonight, I'm going to tell them that I didn't feel like doing it, but I did it because I'm expecting something from you. And I did my part today. You know what I mean? Like to give a little story. So it's like, should be able to do it.
But it validates your position, right? And that's another piece of this as the coach. If you don't do the stuff that you're talking about, makes it a lot harder to be motivating and to be taken seriously, because it's like you don't do it. Because kids, we say it all the time, kids aren't dumb.
Right.
They can see what you're doing and what you're not doing.
That's right.
So you got to take that part of it serious too. Yeah. But speaking of that, talking about winning type stuff, we had a good question yesterday.
Yeah, throw it out.
Actually, we had two questions. So the second question we're going to get to is going to be more the topic for today. But this one came in later on last night, and I just thought it was a really good question. So it's talking about team stuff. Yeah. And the clip that I posted that they commented on, we were talking about how athletes are judged young and how you never know who's watching. We talked about last week. Somebody could always be watching you, whatever. So he's commented on one of those. So this is from Justin, and he said, question for you guys. You talk about the big game and players going into it in terms of raising their CHL draft stock or getting recruited to the NCAA. my question is, sorry, it's just a couple in a row here. 1 second.
That's okay.
What made this? That wasn't the question yet, but he says what makes me ask this is if I was to ask any of my coaches or trainers in high school about getting noticed, the answer would have been help us win, and getting noticed will take care of itself. So do you guys think players should be less focused on getting noticed and more focused on winning, or what kind of the trade-off is of, as a player, thinking of, am I focused more on me? That's basically what the question comes down to. Am I focused more on me, or am I focused more on the team success? That's kind of what the question is.
Yeah.
So I want to throw you, I have my own thoughts, but you can go first.
Okay. Pretty simple, in my opinion.
Yep.
Is you like, number one, as an individual, you got to go and do your best every single day. And as an individual, you always do, what can I do to make my team better? That's the bottom line. You're going to have a role and all that kind of stuff. If you focus on winning, like when you're playing when you're playing for a team, the goal is to win a hockey game and to play as a team. So, maybe I'm confused on the question now that I'm thinking about it. Is it?
Want me to dial?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so my thoughts on this is, because he's asking, so as a player, do I need to focus more on myself getting noticed and doing what I need to get noticed, or do I need to focus more on, let's have the team win? And my brief response to him was basically the thread that I was throwing at him is, obviously, if your team wins, you're going to attract more attention because more people pay attention to teams that win. That's true. And that can be helpful because if you're on a team that wins, more people want to watch the team that wins, right? More people want to be a part of
why do they win?
The journey. It was like, it's like you said with the AA team in Essex when they're little punks of freaking having a sellout night at the arena of people watching. That's because they keep winning.
Yep.
So it's interesting. So that's definitely a factor. But I just kind of disagree with the way the question is posed because he's saying it's more like, it's like an either or.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And it's not, I don't think that's how it is. It's both, they can kind of complement each other and go hand in hand. So you doing the things that you need to get to be noticed, whether that's on a personal level, how you play, making people around you better, all of those factors, that's directly or indirectly going to contribute to helping the team to win. You know, now there's a line that you can draw where it starts to be, you're being selfish, where it's like now you're so just focused on you that like you're not moving the puck, you're trying to score all the goals, you're getting bitter about not getting all the ice time and those kind of things. So there is a line where it gets selfish and now you're not thinking about the team before yourself, which can be a problem. But I think generally those two things can actually be the same driver. Like you can try to help your team win and try to get noticed at the same time. It's not like I have to do this or I have to do this. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no. Yeah. It makes total sense. And I'm going to not argue with you, but I'm going to say there's a general, someone that was in here last night, and these are the actual words, speaking of this. He said, like, if you're a losing team, no one comes and watches you. That's not true, by the way. That's not true.
Sorry, I want to caveat what I said, too, because the other part that I said is, if you're good enough, you'll get noticed. Yeah. That was the other thing I said. So even if you're on the worst team, like we had one of the guys working here in the summer, he was a 6th overall pick on a terrible team. Yeah. Right? And that's just, they'll find you. You can't hide, right? If you're playing at a high level and you're very, very good, you're not going to be able to hide. Yeah. If you're one of those guys that would be maybe like a mid-draft pick or borderline not getting drafted, but you play on a really good team, that's something that could get you a couple more looks or a couple more chances or whatever. But it's not that if you're on a bad team or your team doesn't win that people won't come watch you. That's not true. So that's
well,
what
just another example would be Denny Gour, that plays for Owen Sound Attack, and his teammate was Ryan Gagne they both played in Chatham, and Chatham didn't have a very good team at all. And Denny went 10th overall.
Oh, that high, eh?
Yeah, went 10th overall. Wow. Ryan, on a really poor team, and he's not a big guy, went in the 5th round. He plays for Peterborough now. Yeah. So just, I'm not harping on this. I'm just saying that when scouts are looking for players, they have the brains. Yeah. Think about this. If the Toronto Marlies are playing the Chatham Maroons, there's probably a really good chance that it's going to be a big score in favor of the Toronto Marlies. Right. The population is 4 million versus 30,000. Yep. So you're just not going to put that team together. So if you're scouting that game, you're not looking for necessarily for the kid on Chatham. You're not going there not watching Chatham. Yeah. But you might be watching. And even though Denny Gour was one of the top players in the province at the time, and still is, he's probably not going to get 6 goals or 5 goals. but but what they're looking for is who's competing anyways.
Yeah.
Who's making it hard for their top players. Oh, and he actually competes with these guys. So the scouts see it, and they could piece together that, okay, if Denny played with that guy and that guy on the Marlies, let's say, I always use the Marlies because it's just the name that comes up. How many points would he get? He'd probably quadruple his points. Instead of having 60, he would have more than that, right? So playing on a good team doesn't make you a better hockey player. In fact, if you play on a really good stacked team, you might just blend in, and it makes you less exciting.
Well,
less
we talk
appealing.
about that too. It can go both ways.
Yeah.
Right. Like if you play on the super team, that might make you blend.
Yeah.
If you play on a bad team and you're a good player on a bad team, then you could really stick out. So the winning point of it, like the fact that you win or not, isn't like sufficient to get or isn't necessary to get noticed.
Yeah.
You know, you can be on a bad team and just be really good. And the other part, just kind of a side note, is when people talk about the getting noticed thing, people talk about it like scouts don't have a brain.
That's what I mean.
You know what I mean? Like they're just waltzing into the
who's the
top
best
two
team?
teams and only watching them. And it's like, no, these guys are trying to find the best players.
Yeah.
And they're going to do whatever they have to do to find those guys. It could be, you could be in Timbuktu, wherever. There's guys that get scholarships out of Alaska. There's people like they come from all over the place. They're going to find, if you're good enough, they're going to find you.
Well, and Brownie that plays in Chatham, so he's another one of our customers. Those guys that we said are customers of ours. Brownie that got drafted 5th or 6th round to Saginaw. Yeah. That's what the scout and the GM said to me. They said, like, I really, really like this kid. It was not on a great team. They didn't score goals. He goes, but this guy really competes. Like, he competes and he makes good decisions and he just doesn't stop. Yeah. So the thing is if you're on a poor team or a weak team, is to stand out. Like, I always said that to Charlie, right? I tell that to all the kids. Is like, don't worry about how good your team is. If you're going to be a good player, make the people around you better. Compete, and you do something about it. You make the team, you drive that bus. Yep. If you drive that bus, people notice that. Yep. Period. You don't have to be good. You don't even need matching socks. Go play well. Yep. Now, on the side note, or not a side note, but to answer that question is, you never play for yourself. Like, it's a weird way to say it. You always play for yourself. Meaning giving your best and doing whatever your team needs. But you always play to win. So if you play a system, like, again, scouts are not stupid. If they see that a team is very defensive because they're not very good, and there's one forechecker and there's 4 guys in the neutral zone, then the scouts and GMs know that, okay, there's a system put in place that this kid can't go and, just forecheck all day. And if he just carries the puck by himself, you look like an individual. So you just have to play hockey. If you make good plays all the time, make good decisions, and you have an effort and commitment and show some hockey sense, you will get noticed. Doesn't matter who you are. Good hockey players get noticed. So it's never about the individual ever. They always say there's no I in team, and it's true.
Yep. I think just wrapping that one, it's not necessary that you're winning to get noticed, and those aren't two competing
winning to get noticed.
Yeah, those are not. They don't have to be two competing motivations. I either play to get noticed or I either play to win. It's like those things actually are the same a lot of the time. Yeah. But it's definitely not a necessary thing to get noticed. So I hope that answers the question.
So just a flip side of that, when you play on a super team, we've said it before, but like this year in the 05 OHL draft, there's a couple teams that they were the super teams, supposedly. I didn't mean that like an asshole, but there's supposedly super teams. And they had several guys drafted high, and this happens all the time. Drafted like high first round, second round, and they're not doing. And the first year in the OHL, you're not going to do a whole bunch necessarily, unless you're given opportunities and you capitalize. But there's a lot of guys that went probably a lot higher than they should have. Not probably, they did. Went a lot higher than they should have, because they played with this guy that's a star. Yeah, you're going to get a lot more points and you look a lot better. Your mistakes aren't magnified as they would be on an average team. So, does that help you if you're playing with guys that make you look good? Short term, maybe not long term. And it shows, man. Hockey players water finds its own level all the time.
Yeah, for sure. So that's good. I think that's good on that. The second question we had that is going to kind of branch into our topic today. this was actually a really good question. I was impressed by the question because we don't get a lot about this. So the guy that sent us a message was talking about hitting.
Yeah.
And this is a cool topic because we haven't really touched too much on this topic. But I'm just gonna pull up the message here. One second. Okay, so this came from Nick. So Nick sent us a message the other day, and he said, "I'm just your average U15 minor hockey coach. I have a few kids who struggle with body checking. They freeze when going. When going to a loose puck in a game. They'll stop a stick length away, and let the opposing team take the puck. At this point, they engage fine in practice, but games are a mess. Any tips or advice would be great." So this U15 coach, he doesn't say what level
Yeah.
the kids are at, but it doesn't matter.
It's the same everywhere.
So fire away there, Coach Andy.
So this is that it really is a good question. And when I first read it the other day, I didn't realize he said there's a few kids. I thought he was mentioning like basically my whole team. Either way, doesn't matter. But the first thing I say to that is, God bless you for recognizing that you have an issue, and this is your teaching moment. These are your moments to teach, and this is the thing that when we're coaches, when we see things, we have to come up with solutions to help the players. So hitting is to teach and to understand the players. So what is it that makes someone tentative to not do the physical side? Well, it could be size, could be that they're just very timid people, could be that they're obviously fear.
Yeah.
Did I say that already?
In a roundabout way.
So fear is a huge thing. And how do we fix that, right? So and then you also have some bigger guys that are just timid, and it's funny because if you're a big guy, you're supposed to be rough and tough, right? But some guys are just not wired like that.
Well, the other thing too is like some kids might just not know how. That's the other part
100%.
too. Like technically, they just don't know how to do it.
Yep.
One thing I used to really admire with guys that could time like open ice hits.
Yep.
I could never do that. I
Well, that's a
didn't
skill,
have this. I didn't have the sight. I couldn't see it develop.
Angles.
Yeah, the angles I didn't have right, and I wasn't like a overly physical player.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that was one thing I struggled with. So just technically how to execute a hit.
Yeah.
That's something that could be a roadblock too.
Yeah, 100%. So, so the next thing is, and this is just the honest answer. Some will, some won't. Period. There's and you'll get it at every level. Some guys just are not physical. Now you have to muck it out, but some guys are just not. Like you can have some guys be pushed and pushed and pushed. I mean, physically, like to be confronted, and they will never ever retaliate or there's that fight or flight switch that just doesn't turn off. The flight goes so high, so. You know, it's like if you were to ignore it and just go on a dime, like let's say in a fight, if you just went on a dime, you would eliminate that thing. But some guys just can never get to that point. So some people are just really timid. I mean, I've seen some of the kids that I've trained that actually have very good skill, but they're just, and I don't mean this negative. Like no, it is kind of negative, but I just don't know any other words. It's like they're just softer than baby shit. They're just not rough and tough, and they just don't like it.
They're like practice players. Good in practice,
they're
but
practice players,
yeah.
And anything physical, they freeze, and their mind. And part of it, like, it could be that they're thinking about it so much that I don't want to get hit, I don't want to get hurt, and it's a tough way to play hockey, right? So that's one thing that you gotta embrace it, that it is a physical game. It is what it is. We did the history of hockey. It's meant to be violent, right? Fear. Just to stick on that for a minute, like fear is the fear of the unknown. So when you're going in there and you see someone maybe bigger than you, or someone that looks like they could be tough, like if you have fear, then that brain says, okay, like hold up, right? And it's just one of those things. So a funny story was I was never afraid to play hockey, but when I got to the OHL, I remember preseason, we're playing Sioux North Bay. I got in a fight my second game. But going in on a one-on-one or a one-on-two, I think I said this maybe before, we're playing in North Bay, and there's a defenseman named Wayne McPhee who was 4 years older than me, and he had a Yosemite Sam mustache on, like thick, and he shaved probably 6 minutes ago, and he was starting to, you could see it growing as you're coming down on him. He had hair sticking out of his chest. He was going half bald, but he had long hair, like a long bald mullet.
Yeah.
And he was a scary looking dude to a 16-year-old boy. And he was tough. So I remember going in and I was like in slow motion going, do I want to do this? I actually want to do this? Because the size, the age, the beard, the music, the crowd, all these different senses are going on. And it was like a literal decision that I had to make. Like, okay, dump it in and go get it. And for the first month, I wouldn't say month, but I would say probably 5, 6, 7 games, I actually had to say, okay, just go do it. So I remember playing at home against the Windsor Spitfires, and they had some huge Ds. So there was the one I remember going against, it was Mark Krasowski, and another one was Glenn Featherstone, and they were tough, man. They're tough older guys. And I remember coming in with speed. I was a left winger at the time, coming on the right-hand side, and so you know how you got a little bit of space to beat a guy with some speed on the wall, but there's only a little bit of space. You know that there's probably going to be contact. And I remember saying it to myself. I picture it because I had brown, orange, and white CompuWare colors. And I remember at home and coming down that wall with speed, and I'm going, just do it. So you're not thinking hockey at that point. You're just thinking, just do it. Take it. So I'd come down with speed, and he got a little piece of me, but I got the puck deep, and I did my job. It was like, okay, it's not so bad. And it was never bad, but it was like at that point, it was like there's such a huge gap in size and age that this actually takes a little bit of balls to do.
Yep.
And if I'm tentative, it's not going to be good. So I learned just by willing myself to go with speed, stay tight to the boards, and try to make a play and go full tilt. And I found that the faster I did it, most of the time, like depending on the situations, I'll go over it after. Depending on the situation, the faster and the harder I did it, the less likely I was to get injured or it would hurt or there was basically the fear taken out of it. Right. So it was a decision, and sometimes you have to teach. You have to make a decision to just do it.
Okay, so
mentally.
So I'm gonna wherever we go here, I'm gonna keep centering you back to like how to coach this kind of thing because this is the question. Yeah. So on the fear perspective, obviously that's right. So would you say a good way to relay that message is to try to maintain your speed going through these, whether you're taking a hit or giving a hit, trying to maintain speed. Like as soon as you start to slow up, that kind of tentative part of the game, and obviously you have to read plays. Like there's times where you're gonna have to go slower or whatever. Yeah. But that just do it. Like just get through it. Just keep moving forward. Like that kind of stuff. Is that a good way to teach that to the players? How are you relaying this message?
Okay, so in this situation, because there are times where you actually should slow down.
Yeah.
Like, okay, so for example, I have it in my notes, but if I'm going down and I'm racing for an icing, I'm a forward or a D, doesn't really matter. Yeah. If I'm the first guy in and the guy's right behind me, and there's even if the puck is near the boards, but like if it's within a few feet of the boards, that could be a recipe for disaster. And if you go in there and don't slow down, not all the time, but sometimes if you don't slow down, and you go grab that puck and he's right behind you, you're getting hit twice. Once 3-4 feet from the boards.
And if
it goes well for the other guy, you're going to get hit harder from the boards. Yeah. So in that situation, you do actually want to angle yourself and slow your feet down, because if you actually slow down and someone hits you while you're stopped, it's harder to hit you. Yep. Like it's harder to hurt you. But if you go in there with full speed, with room against the boards, you know what I mean by the ice and the end boards?
I totally know exactly what you mean, yeah.
Then that could be a recipe. So now the teaching moment could be take a clip of NHL game, an OHL game, a college game. This is why video is so important. It's not about how much you have to teach. You don't have to even be a great teacher, but you can just say, in different situations, you say, okay, why did he slow down? Like you look at a couple, you say, okay, in this case, it was like an icing, or there was a lot of speed going in there, and you could see them both kind of slowing down. Because the other guy doesn't I think everyone loves to give a good hit, for sure. But I don't think anybody really wants to hurt someone. Because when someone actually injures someone, you could see them go, oh, I probably did the wrong thing, right? Yeah. So I think when someone's going in for those hits, I think both people, for the most part, are somewhat aware that this could be ugly. Yeah. But from a defensive standpoint, when you go down there, if you can slow down and I'm not saying stop, but sometimes stop, but you slow yourself down to control that body, then you're not going to get hurt. It doesn't happen. So anyways, from a coaching perspective, look at video and pick out a couple different situations. It's not hard to do.
Right.
You can watch highlights all over the place. You can watch OHL packages. You watch NHL packs. People have it. Watch video, and it doesn't have to be of your team. Watch NHL guys and what they did.
Yep.
And if you see a guy slow down, you go, "Oh, is he scared?" No, he's protecting himself.
Yep.
There's a big difference, right?
Totally.
So now another situation would be what I was talking about is if you're coming along, like if you're a right winger on the right hand side, if you slow down, unless you're making a play and you're reading something, but if you slow down just to avoid the hit, now you're not playing hockey. Now you're not helping your team, not helping yourself. You're making, and then that guy owns you. So in that situation, when you're going with speed, if you're really tight to the boards, or like if you know you can get hit, you can actually throw yourself into the boards and squeeze through. They don't hurt.
Right.
They don't hurt unless your head's down and you don't see it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So
we'll say so that would be for more avoiding the hits, or how to get yourself through situations where you're going to get hit.
Yeah, well, I think he was saying okay.
And then what about when you're the guys giving, just to play the flip side of that too? If you're the guy giving the hit, if you're the tentative guy that doesn't want to give the hit necessarily, or they don't want to go in for the, and I mean this goes back to what I was saying earlier about not being able to time the open ice hit kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think a way you can frame it as a coach, and then you throw your thoughts on this, is it doesn't have to be this big arena crushing hit. Like sometimes it's just contact, and sometimes just getting in the way is enough, especially for kids that don't want to hit. So what would you say if you're the guy throwing the hit now? Obviously, there's different situations of how to do it different ways, but what would your teaching points be for that?
Okay, so throwing the hit is way, way, way overemphasized because the point of hockey is not to throw the hits. When I played, because I had a brain and I had my head up, I could read plays coming. So we had a couple guys in the league. One of them was Brian Marchman. I played with him at under 17. But I remember we were playing in Belleville. And already, even if I didn't know who he was, I saw it coming. So he would be, and he was so good, but he would be able to come and time those open ice hits and crush people. And in the NHL, he had a reputation of taking guys' knees out, which maybe he did, maybe he didn't. I don't know. He was tough, man.
Yeah.
But I remember coming down in Belleville, the big ice, and I was getting a puck, may appeared like I was looking behind me, but I was, eyes are looking. I know exactly what's going on. And as he was coming, I just timed it so that as he was trying to hip check me or like open ice kill me, I just took one step and went by him, and I was able to make a play. Yeah. So in that, it's like, so sometimes that is just, if he makes that hit, it's great for his team, but look what it did. So the point is, going for the big hit it's not that important. The purpose of body contact is finishing plays. So the number one thing, the number one objective in the physical game is to what? To hammer someone? No, it's to get the puck.
Separate the puck, yeah.
Separate the puck from the player. So the number one thing is to learn how to get good angles, right? So anytime that you're coming straight on someone like this, all it takes is one fake or one movement, and then you're toast anyways. So what you want to learn in every situation, D zone, neutral zone, and offensive zone, is to learn angles. So which way do you want to push people, right? Your stick will dictate which way they go. So for example, if you're on my right-hand side and I have my stick skating like this, then it's very easy for you to cut to the center. If I'm coming at a straight line with you, then it becomes even easier. Now it's like it's nothing. Now, if I come at you cutting through the middle a bit, like taking an angle, almost coming underneath you, and I have my stick to the middle, so I'm coming at you here, yeah. Stick to the middle on an angle, you have no choice. You can't go that way. If you do, then you're mine.
Yeah.
And if you come up the wall, I'm starting to angle you. So now from that angle, I have an option. I can just only go for the hit.
Yep.
So if I'm the big hitter and I only go for the hit, nothing necessarily good happens because I don't have the puck. Mm-hmm. So the most important thing is that when you take an angle, your stick is poking towards the puck. Like it's called stick on puck, right? Yep. Like everyone knows that, yep. I think. So your stick is on puck, but if the physical part is, yes, you can hit him, or you can cut him off so that he runs out of room and you cut his hands off, right. So he can't make a play. And that's physical enough. Yeah. Right. So you don't have to be a big time hitter.
Yeah, this is huge. I want to stick this for a second.
Sure.
So if you're a player that has naturally some of that physicality to your game, yeah, and you're a guy that can go throw the big punishing hit, yeah. Great. Like, yeah. Good for you. But as the coach, if you're trying to relay this to some guys that maybe don't like hitting as much,
Yeah.
or they're tentative or whatever,
Yeah.
I think that is what the teaching point. That's the important teaching point. It's like
Yeah.
you don't have to be a huge body checker, but you need to use contact effectively to
Yep.
separate the puck.
That's
So
right.
now these kids, maybe they won't necessarily feel the pressure to go in and try to pile drive somebody. They just know, okay, as long as I can just get in his way, separate the puck, there's going to be a little bit of contact. And that might ease their mind thinking about it a little
Yeah.
bit, where they don't think,
Yeah.
okay, I have to go in and try to crush this guy. Because
Yeah.
that could be, I was never a guy that was super scared about the contact part of the game.
Right.
I don't remember that being part of how I thought.
Yeah.
So maybe this isn't the best way to frame it because I wasn't a kid that was scared, so I don't know. But to me, that sounds useful. Like if you say, hey, the point is not have a huge hit. The point is we need to separate puck. And then going back to your point about video, this is where the video can be really useful because we can't sit here and explain every situation how to hit because
Right.
it's all very different. So you can use video to see which types of hits are appropriate in which circumstances. Now, I don't know what age group this guy's
U15.
or sorry, not what age group, what level he's
level?
teaching, if it's AAA, AA, AE, whatever. But it doesn't matter because he can either, the point of me saying that is he could either have a video session,
Yeah.
or if it's not that serious because it's a more minor level, then you watch. Like you watch, have the knowledge,
Yeah.
and then you can transfer that message to them. The importance of the contact is that puck separation. It's not to rattle the boards with a huge hit.
No.
You know, so the technique part of it, you're going to get that from watching this different situations because there's lots of different ways to throw a hit. Some guys use hips, some guys use shoulders, some guys use hands. There's a lot of different ways to do it, and you can watch from that. But I think the biggest technical piece, to get a little off topic, is just making sure you're low enough to be on the winning side of the hit. If you're not low, if you don't have a low center of gravity, then it's going to be hard for you to be, on the better side of the hit if you're not low enough to do that.
Yeah.
So that's the only technical piece. But outside of that, that's a really important message. Is it's about the separation of the puck. It's not about, and kids may have never heard that before.
Yeah.
They may think, when I think body check, I think I gotta rattle the glass with a huge hit. That might be something that's going through their head. So I think that's a way to kind of ease the pressure for kids that don't necessarily play that physical of a role. I don't know if you have a thought on that.
No, it's totally 100%. Like the thing is that you end up, you want the puck. That's how you win hockey games.
Yeah.
The only way you score goals is get the puck. So if you run around like an idiot trying to hit people, like there is a piece that might be affected. But that even if you're a big goony team, it gets old after a while because you just get outplayed. You're not going to have the puck.
Well, it's like you said, you play against a player who's any good.
Right.
They can see the plays develop.
Yeah.
So that's a really good point that they can bring up as well. Like good players can avoid the hits.
Yeah.
So if you're running around looking for huge hits, that's not necessarily the best thing to be doing all the time.
Yeah.
Unless you're one of those guys that just has that element where you can do that and it's you know how to channel it appropriately. You know.
Yeah.
But do you have another thought? Because I have another follow-up question on that.
I got a lot of thoughts, but you go first.
Okay. So the last piece I was gonna ask you about, and I think I'm jumping a little bit for you because we're talking a lot about the coaching. I just want to stick with the coaching thing, but that's fine.
Yeah.
So if you get kids that won't do it, so now this is a really significant for kids that go into their first year in the OHL, because I can't tell you how many kids that were so talented and they couldn't stick in the OHL because their first year and second year, when they're in a more third, fourth line role, they were still trying to play their skill game. They weren't willing to adopt some of those grinder type qualities to their game because they never had to before.
Yep.
And they think, why should I have to do that? I'm a goal scorer.
Yep.
Why do I need to finish my hits? Why do I need to muck it out in the corners and take hits and all that kind of stuff? Block shots, those are other things. But on the hitting thing specifically, if somebody's unwilling to do that, how, as a coach, we'll do that, and then we'll get into maybe player after.
Yep.
But as a coach, how do you handle the kid that won't do it? What's your philosophy on that?
It's pretty simple. Like, well, maybe it's not simple. It's so for you're assuming you're coaching because you're teaching and you want to win and you're trying to make the kids better. So if I put a kid out on a power play and his job is to be net front presence, all right, and a bumper play or whatever, like that's your job. If you go out and take the puck and you skate around the zone and try to score yourself, then I can't keep you on the power play. You're not helping your team. And that's the message. You're helping your team. This is important that you do this. If we're a defenseman breaking out and I continue to tell you that, no, I want you to move it. I want you to use a first option pass available. I don't want you skating past the blue line, but if you continue to do that, then I have to discipline you in some way. It's just that simple. So when it comes to finishing, again, it's not finishing the checks. But if you don't do your job of cutting off hands, let's say, or getting in the way, then you're not doing your job. You're not being effective. So I have to say, okay, like until you do that, because you're not getting, there's no way you can get pucks. So now you're not helping your team. You're not being effective. So until you start finishing, and I mean, explain it. You don't have to kill someone. You just have to get in the way. You have to take the hands off. You have to be somewhat aggressive, or else you can't play on the team. Can't. Now, am I talking house league hockey? No. But am I talking travel or AAA or kids that are trying to move up the ladder? Yes, that's what you have. That's what you pay a little bit more money for. That's what you travel for, and their expectations are a little bit higher.
That's who our message is geared towards. Kids that are trying to go on.
Yeah, and then as you said, if you're only benefiting the kid because hockey only gets rougher, faster, bigger, stronger, hairier, and older.
Yeah.
Right. So if you can't do it at a peewee, bantam, midget level, at least a little bit. Again, it's not about ripping someone's head off or blowing someone up. It's just about making contact of some sort. If you're doing that and you're doing it like fairly aggressively with some speed, then you're going to be okay. But if you can't, then you have to learn that lesson. You have to do it.
Yeah.
Right. It's like a defenseman that goes in the corner and only pokes and never has even get a hand on a guy. Well, you're not effective at all.
And this goes back to the point you made kind of at the start: is some kids just won't do it.
Some kids
there's going to be some kids. Yeah, there's some kids that just won't do it, and then at that point, depending again on what level you're teaching at, what tools you have available as the coach, whether you're sitting the kid or you cut them next year or whatever, there's a certain line, like you said, you have to do this to play and be effective. And if you don't, you're not good enough to play. That's just the consequence, the natural consequence of the game. But the key as the coach is making sure you're communicating that properly in the way we just talked about for the last 20 minutes. You know?
Yeah, so nicely.
Yeah.
Because you get recognized. I mean, Charlie has kids on his team in the OHL that aren't big hitters.
Yeah.
But they're really good hockey players. They still get their nose dirty. They're still in there. They learn how to strip pucks real good, but they're still making contact.
Yeah.
They're just not throwing bodies around.
Well, pass the job's like that a lot, right?
Absolutely.
He picks pucks.
Potsy, he's tough as nails.
Yeah.
He takes a lot of contact, but he's not giving a ton.
Yeah, it's not the same. Whereas when you watch a kid that's like Charlie or like on D, if you watch like Profaka that are going in and they're making hard,
Cam and Bushy,
they're making hard contact.
Yeah.
Other guys that don't have that same element to their game, they're still really effective players without that.
Without the hard hits, but they're still physical.
They're physical. They're getting in the muck. They're making the contact. They're making the separation. But you're never going to see pass a job on the highlight reel for a big hit that he threw.
Most likely not.
Most likely not. So because it's just not a big element of his game, that doesn't mean he can't be effective. And that's why the messaging of how you're explaining it to your player is important, because it's not that. And that's kind of what can get lost when you say finish your hits.
Yeah.
You know, because it's not specific enough about what the purpose of the hit is.
Yeah.
Because when you just think finish your hit, that's what you think of. I have to go hit the guy.
Another term that a coach can use is called hit and pin. Right?
Yeah,
it's a less violent word.
Yeah.
So what that just simply means, if you can cut off the hands, right, and have a guy have to roll or run out of room, it's like, don't just skate by. You're trying to eliminate him from the play. You've got a couple seconds to do that. Yeah. So you cut off the hands and then, 1-2.
Yep.
You eliminate him from getting up in the rush and stuff. That's very effective.
Yep, totally. Cool. So that's what I got for the coaching piece. If you want to move on to whatever else you had after.
So just another things off so you can slow down on if you're going to get hit.
Going more technical talk here.
Oh, I'm just going to finish this and then we'll go wherever we have to go. So I just had slowing down to absorb hits. So that's the one I was saying on icings or when you're going for a race for the puck. Sometimes slowing down and just being aware and getting to the puck, but slowing down and having the battle kind of at the same speed. That's one way. Rolling and spinning off of checks. So that's another way is when you make plays is when you pass and you wait to that last, you make a play and you wait to that last second. And when that person makes contact with you, you roll with it so that it's nothing. It's only a graze. So it's a skill in its own, but it's a skill. But if you learn how to pin or spin and roll off of passes or plays or checks, then you'll never get hurt. You can't get hurt. So the other thing that I taught Charlie ever since he was young, and this might rub people the wrong way, I'm sorry, but you have to survive. As I said, and I've said this I was talking to one of the kids on his team this year actually, as well about it, is like when you don't have the puck, Like when there's a lot. You ever see guys get blown up in the neutral zone and or run into someone else and they almost get KO'd and you go, oh man, like that was ugly.
Yeah.
It was almost like they weren't paying attention.
Yeah.
You know, it was accidental. So I told Charlie at all times when you are not sure or if you make a pass, as soon as you make a play, your hands are up here. I'm not saying cross someone's head, but if need be, better you than me.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Sure.
But when you make plays, you're on the wall, right? You make a play and someone's coming to hit you, right? Don't worry about being all clean. It's not dirty anyways, but it's make a play and it's stiff arms. It's not stiff arms or you're cross-trucking it across the head. It's just boom and you have a nice...
Some protection, yeah.
You know how I learned that? No one taught me. I learned that by being on the receiving end of that. Mm-hmm. So the head coach of the Sudbury Wolves right now is Craig Duncanson. So he was first round pick to LA and he was 2 or 3 years older than me. And it was at my first OHL camp. Okay, he was the captain of our team. So in the green-white game, I played against him. So I went to finish my hit against him the first time. And I wasn't trying to kill him. Like there's some civility. Yeah. Because we were teammates and stuff, but it was still training camp. And I'm still trying to make a name for myself. I wasn't fighting him. He had hands like frozen turkeys. Yeah. But... tough. He fought Probert and this guy was tough. First year in the league, 16 years old. He was drafted first overall. He had 36 goals, 36 assists, and 100 and some penalty minutes. He fought all the tough guys at 16. Did that 2 years in a row. Got drafted first round in the NHL. Not the greatest skater, but what a hockey player. Yeah. So he was our captain. So anyways, what a story. Eh?
Yeah, great story.
So he made a play, go to finish my check, and I wasn't running him, but his automatic response was,
give you one. Yeah.
Right across, just above the elbow in the tricep area, and it's like, you keep playing. I did that 3 times, and then I'm like, oh, I don't want to hit him again. Yeah. But there's the point.
That's right.
There's the point. Yeah. Now, he would answer the bell if I
for sure.
He would. He's there to answer the bell.
That's not the point, yeah.
But the point is that when I went to hit him or to finish my check, I got hurt.
Right.
Like it hurt.
Yeah.
Wasn't injured, but it hurt. And then 2 of those and 3 of those, next thing you know, you have a bruise, and it's like for a couple of days, you're like,
yeah, this guy did this to me.
You know? Yeah. I learned that lesson my first year at 16 years old. I'm like, okay, that's one way. So I've used that for my son, and I've told that to other people. I say, as soon as you get the puck or you're unaware or whatever, be ready.
Yep.
Because if you can, if here's the thing, if you're easy to play against, you're an easy target.
Yep. If
I can, every time I go against you, if you're gonna cower or you're gonna wussy out a little bit, if we're gonna call it that, or if you're not ready, I'm gonna own you all day.
Yep.
But the thing is that if I have my stick up, and just there's a stiff arm, there's no real motion. If there is like an inch or two, just a quick jab.
Just enough, yeah.
The next time the guy comes in, he's thinking twice. And if he does it again, he's thinking 3-4 times. And then either the guy's a tough guy and he's going to do it anyways.
Yeah.
But you're not going to get hurt. Or you're going to have to answer the bell. Or he quits.
Yep. And
the game of hockey this is the thing. Skill versus will all the time. And if you all the skill in the world, the will wins. The will wins. Yeah. So that's what the hockey is. It's head to head. And it's like after a period of me and you going together, if someone's a little bit more jammy, have a little bit more grit, someone either gives up or the guy matches grit or outgrits them, and that's the game of hockey. Yep. So the other important thing about the physicality, I went kind of backwards here, is that as the level of hockey becomes better, more meaningful, more intense, playoffs, i.e. playoffs, the guys that aren't physical don't shine. The guys that have some grit to them are the guys that's why Zach Cassian is so effective in the playoffs.
Yep.
So anyways, roll-off checks stick out. So I told a couple guys on his team the same thing. Protect yourself, right? So anytime you're when you're not thinking or you think you're in la la land or you're wandering or your mind's looking for plays, stick is here so that because at the last minute, even though you're aware, at the last second, someone could just be a really late hitter trying to get you dirty or whatever. And if you're here at that last split second, you can protect yourself by having your hands up. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So if you're skating like this, then you're a target. You're going to be a mess if someone decides to hammer you.
Yeah, for sure.
So now, just to be clear, I'm not saying don't bale hay when you're skating.
Yeah.
I'm saying keep keep your head up at all times. Always be on a swivel. Be aware of guys, and when you make plays, stick up. Like just have it there so that you can protect yourself.
Yeah.
Pretty simple.
Right. Yeah. So I'm gonna branch into this a little bit because now we're kind of talking about another question I was gonna ask you is if you're a player that isn't super physical, what are some things you can do to kind of get yourself more into that physical mode or give yourself a little bit more of that presence that you're talking about?
Yeah.
So on that note, another one that I remember, some guys were really good at this, and it was along the same lines as when you go hit somebody and they just give you a little jab.
Yeah.
Some of the guys that I remember, two in particular that I played with, every time you hit them, it felt like you got the wind knocked out of you because they were so solid in their core. And now part of that is that they were just really strong. Yeah. But the other part of that is they would brace to hit you first.
That was my next thing.
Yeah. Was it? Yeah. So two guys that I played with, I remember the first time I hit one of the guys, and I was a bigger guy. Like I was strong. Yep. I remember I went in this guy's corner, and I have like a significant size advantage on him. Weight wise, height wise a little bit, but weight wise for sure. And I hit him and we just did one of those like boom, hits. And I actually thought I broke my ribs because just as I'm going to hit him, he jumped back into me first because he was ready. Like you were saying, he was ready for the hit coming. And instead of doing the stick technique you're talking about, he was just ready to go for contact first. And just as I'm starting to lean out of my low stance to finish the hit, he's leaning into his. Yep. So his center of gravity is collapsing while mine is starting to extend. And then he, a lot of the times ended up on the better end of a lot of those hits. And I watched these two guys I'm thinking of blow up guys that were coming to hit them all the time. Yep. You know, so you can take
Eric
that
Lindros.
Yeah.
Now, it probably hurt him in the end. But when he was the best junior player I ever seen.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, hard to argue.
Really?
So at that point, I was his second year, I think it was. He was playing in Oshawa. I was assistant coach for Sudbury Wolves, and it was just like he was huge. Like he was the size he is in the NHL. Like he played on Team Canada Cup at 18 years old with Gretzky, Lemieux, Tocchet, like the best players in the world, and he was good. He was blowing guys up there. But what he did is he would run over guys. He had the puck, and it was Peter Forsberg was like that too a little bit. You would come at him, his feet wouldn't stop. He would hit you before you could hit him, and he'd run you over. So Lindros was like that. He would just run people over. If you got in his way, he just ran you over. Size advantage. When he got to the NHL, he still did it, but then there was a lot of times that he got used to. And by no means am I saying he's a dumb hockey player. The guy's unbelievable, but he would come down because he had that. It's almost the curse of being good young. He was so much bigger and stronger than guys in junior that he just got in the habit of coming through the neutral zone. He could have his head down a bit and not be aware. And most guys that tried to hit him would end up on their ass.
Right.
We got to the NHL, Scott Stevens and these guys there were a lot of dirty hits. Yeah. But conkies, right? So that was maybe to his detriment, but he hit first. Peter Forsberg hit first. And it's a skill. But now there's a time and a place because sometimes you're just better off absorbing a hit, like with speed. But you got to feel it out. But if when in doubt, hit. Absolutely. Well, okay, but now at the higher levels, you better be willing to back it up.
That's what I was
the only thing. You have to back it up.
So in junior for me, this was a part because I wasn't a super physical player. I wasn't going around blowing guys up, but I was always in contact. I would make contact, but I wasn't like a huge hitter person. Yeah. But that was one element when I first came across that, like hit guys first. That was something that I took and I started to use in my own game. Yeah. And at the start, I didn't really know how to do it properly. So this is just to your point of you need to feel it out when to use it. Because sometimes I would have the puck in the corner and I would like wait for people to come and hit me so I could hit them first. Yeah. But then I would leave the puck because I'm hitting them first. So I started noticing that pattern. So there's a time and a place where you can use these things and they'll be effective. And there's a time when they won't be effective necessarily. But that ability you'll surprise a lot of guys. Yeah. Right. So as you're saying, you have to back it up because if you're a guy that's going to drop a shoulder into somebody just before they're ready, like you're going to have guys that want to piece you after that. Yeah. But it can be really effective because people aren't necessarily expecting to get a shot when they're coming to hit you. Yeah. You know?
Side note, as I was thinking about this, because I was thinking of Charlie's teammate.
Oh, yeah. There's a hitter. There's a freight train.
So here's a point. There's some guys on the ice. Well, the first point is no matter who you're playing, you have to have a clue who's on the ice, your team and their team.
Another great point.
Yeah, so if you're playing the Washington Capitals and or no, I like this one better. If you're playing the Florida Panthers, there's a guy on their team named Radko Gudas. He's built like a overgrown fire hydrant with a full beard, and in my opinion, I think he likes hurting people. Whatever, it is what it is. You need those guys. He throws some devastating hits, some borderline dirty or whatever, but you have to know who you're on the ice with. So if you're lined up and you see Radko Gudas on the right D, then you know that's going to be a very physical altercation. So you have to prepare yourself. Like if you're cutting up the ice on his, his side or go like, he might be cutting across. You don't go up the ice looking like this because he's going to be there and he's going to take your head off. So that's on you right now. Yeah. So but my point is there's some guys that you don't want to have a piece of.
Right.
It's just true.
I agree totally.
Like Tom Wilson is a 6'4", 230 thick man.
Yep.
He probably doesn't have to think too much because he's going to, he can handle himself. But if you're not that size, you do have to have a brain. Yep. It's not always about I'm tough.
Well, that's why there's
tough
heavyweights,
is stupid
man.
too. Yeah.
That's why there's heavyweights.
If you fight, there's a level where that's a dangerous fight for you.
Yeah.
So you do have to be aware of who you're on the ice with. So going back to, he was so in Bantam, minor Bantam and major Bantam, he was like 5'8", 5'9", thick, strong, getting his facial hair. I saw this kid. I love him too. I'm not saying this in a bad way. He made the team better. He had hands. Yeah, he had hands like feet. Couldn't stick hand over the thing. He's probably going to listen to this. It's funny. But the one thing he did is he loved to hit. And I seen him just lay people out, like scary. And the one time they were playing in Sarnia, where the Sarnia Sting played, and the kid was carrying a puck through the neutral zone, probably this far away from the boards, like just inside, like just outside the neutral zone center circle. So that's like 15, 20 feet. And he came across and hammered him, and the kid flew into the boards. And it was like you hear bang, bang, and the kid was laying there just like thought he got hit by a freight train.
Yeah.
But the point was, they've played each other for like this is the second year they played against, and this isn't the first time he hit someone hard like that. So they weren't aware.
Yeah.
Your fault.
Yeah.
Your fault.
Well, so all these points we're making, there's a balance, as there always is, right? Yeah. There's trade-offs to how you play and the way that you behave on the ice, because if you're not an ultra heavyweight, someone else is, and they're going to come get you. Just two quick stories that I was thinking of while you're talking. I played with a kid. His name is, I don't know if you remember him. Yeah. This guy was an open ice hitter, man. This guy could, on D, hip checks. Guys, like they would come into the O zone and try to cut across the blue line. Boom. All the time. And he was looking for him. He could time it, and he was always on the right end of the hit. And exact same story, like guys that you don't want a piece of because they'll blow you up. And he could fight decent. So a couple guys on our team, high skill players, doing that, cutting through the middle and just getting boom, boom, boom. I remember one game we played in Leamington with a huge Olympic ice, blew up two kids in the same game and fought and beat the snot out of the kid that he fought. And it's like, we've played these guys 10 times, and no one on our team is going to go get that guy because he will win. Yeah. So the guy that went to try to answer the bell, he did it because it was you had to, no choice, because somebody just got blown up. But then he got lit up. So if the skill guy would have had more awareness on the ice that he's there, then like you said, have your eyes up so you can avoid those hits, because you can. Sometimes they're going to catch you, and that happens. Yeah. But there's some guys you don't want a piece of because you're going to be on the losing end all the time. And it's just smarter as a hockey player to work around that guy than to try to go head on all the time, right? Because that's where you're just fighting a losing battle. One more story quick.
Yeah, no, for
I've told you about this one a bunch of times. In junior, I could handle myself. I wasn't the toughest guy ever, but I would fight a few times a year, and I was fine doing that. But there's some guys, man. So I had a guy came down from the Knights. He ended up playing with the Nationals. Yeah. This guy was brick face, man. Yeah. This guy could eat. There's videos of his fights in junior where he would just purposely have his hands down and just eat punches and then fill the guy in right after that. Because And like, you look at this guy, you're like, you're a lunatic. So he had no teeth, came down, was playing us, and we got in a scrum from the net. Normally, I'm a guy that if it's called for, I would get into it.
Yeah.
But I end up paired up with this guy in the scrum, and I don't want nothing to do with this guy. No chance.
Yeah.
So I can
It's a
feel.
different level.
I know. I can feel as we're tied up. I can feel his hands come up my face, and he starts to dig his thumb into my eye.
He's gonna get
So
something, eh?
Yeah, he's going for the eye gouge. So I remember I just grabbed him and I pulled him in like as close as possible, so he couldn't use his hands to start throwing or anything. Just saying, like, you're a lunatic, man.
Yeah.
And I don't want. So it's like, you're gonna go, if you think that you're gonna be, the message out of this is go be a tough guy and try to run people over and all that. That's not what we're saying, because you're going to meet the guy that's actually the tough guy that actually never loses, and you're going to have to answer that call, and that's a tough call to answer. You know, so speaking here, I was reminded those two stories sticking out.
Yeah,
funny.
No, it's very true.
Yeah.
Hey man, there's some guys. Yeah, that's what I told Charlie. Like, he plays a very physical game.
Yep.
And I said, you gotta. That's why. So, well, I guess this is part of what I was going to say after, but I'll just say it now. There's a time where you're gonna have to, like, every player that is going to play junior hockey, we learn how to skate. We refine our stick handling. We refine, try to be mentally tough. Coaches teach all kinds of things. And then for some reason, as coaches, as parents or whatever, we don't do our due diligence. And if you get in a scrap, just throw them, or, there's no advice or whatever. Every kid that plays junior hockey, I'm not saying this because I'm a Neanderthal knuckle dragging idiot. I'm saying this just out of common sense. If you look at, just say this is your son going out to play on the ice, you're playing against some big boys, and someone drops the mitts, you better have a little bit of a clue what to do. Yeah. I'm not saying you have to win your fights. That's not the purpose of this. So Charlie, knowing his game, and even if he was a 90-goal scorer that never threw a hit, you have to be ready, because there's brawls sometimes. There's situations where you just need to stand up for yourself.
Yeah, and you don't have a choice.
Yeah, and the point is, you don't need to win your fight, but you don't want to lose and get your ass kicked all over the place if you can help it. And there's so many people that go into the leagues and they don't even think of that.
Yep.
And I've seen guys square off and I go, this is going to be so ugly. This is going to be so ugly. And usually it is. Or you see two guys that don't know how to fight at all. They're just throwing haymakers and their chins.
And it's like more dangerous. Yeah.
It's so dangerous.
Yeah, way more dangerous.
You could be the best fighter in the world and you can get popped and you could be waking up looking at the lights.
Yeah.
But the point is to try to avoid that.
Yeah.
Right? So every kid, whether you want to be a fighter, you don't have to be a fighter. We did it with Seabass, right? Dalton spent time with Seabass. And Seabass is probably not going to fight anybody. Maybe he will. He will if he had to. But I don't want him to, because that's not his thing. But he spent some time with Dalton and my brother and Charlie, just learning holds, and just so you don't get killed. And you still might. Yeah. But the thing is, you want to go in there with some confidence.
Right.
So every kid that goes to play junior hockey, you need to understand that it could happen, and it probably will happen, and you better know how to at least tie a guy up a little bit. Like at worst, get in there and hug the guy to death.
Exactly, man.
So that you're not sitting there getting your face mashed.
The thing about this, the story I just told, right?
Yeah.
If I don't know how to tie him up, where he can wiggle loose, and he's a guy that always wants to throw, he can just stretch me out and fill me in. There's nothing I can do because I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah. But because I had a little bit of experience, I know how to tie up. I know where to grab, and I can throw a punch if I have to. I know how to throw one. Yeah. I felt much more protected being in a situation where I know the guy's gonna feed my lunch to me for sure. You know, so I can do that. I can at least just tie up, so I don't want to. And this is actually one credit I'll give to the OHL over the NCAA, because there's not a lot of answer the bell in NCAA, because guys aren't fighting. So if you're a kid if you're a skill player and you go the college way, you may never have a physical altercation ever.
That's right.
You may never have to deal with one.
Plus a face mask.
Right? Yeah. So you never have to deal with a cut on the chin. You don't have to deal with anything. You know, so that's one plus I'll give the OHL over NCAA is kids, they might have to answer, and that was Charlie's first fight, right? Yeah. Him and Cogs want to hit the same guy, and then in comes Cully, boom, to come and say, hey, what's up?
So here we go. This is the thing. Like, so I'm not just talking about fighting. I'm talking about the physical part of the game. Is you have to do it. Yeah. You have to be physical. And when you look at someone, you can't tell if they're tough or not, if they're strong or not.
Oh, that's for sure.
I've seen Michael Pekka, when I coached in the OHL, He was our first round pick. So we're doing.
Remember that name? Jesus.
Well, he used to hit like a truck, but I went ahead of myself. So we were the coaches. We split up in different situations for the fitness, and I wasn't marking things, but I was in charge of like the one piece of the track, like the running. So everybody had the blue Sudbury Wolves t-shirts, blue shorts on, including some of the staff. So like this, 5 foot, maybe 9.
Pekka?
At the time, Pekka, 145.
Come on.
I didn't met him yet. This group is walking in, and so he had these on. That's why I put them on. It wasn't because I need to read.
I was gonna say.
I was going. So he comes walking
glasses
in
on.
with glasses, and I said, hey, "Can I help you, kid?" Like I was kind of actually rude. Like, yeah, what, bud? We're doing some testing. He goes, "Oh, Mike Pekka." I went, "It's a first round pick." I'm like, "Oh, this." In my head, I'm going, "This kid is going to get killed." Oh, because it was an animal league back then.
Yeah.
Louis DeBrusque was like in his prime. Yeah, I don't know if you know Louis DeBrusque. He came into the OHL at 6'3", 6'4", 235 pound thing, juiced up. Not think, but anyways. I'm like, he's gonna get killed. He got on the ice, and open ice hit, blew guys up all over the place. I'm like, that's not possible.
Yeah.
It's not possible. He played all junior, blowing guys up. I watched him in his first year in Vancouver. He blew up a tough guy, big tough guy at center ice, and guys are going after him. And I'm like, Mike, you're gonna get killed. I was scared for him, but he had it. He was probably got to 155.
That's man. I don't remember that about him either. That's interesting.
Oh,
I don't remember
good,
him hitting.
and good.
Yeah, I know. I remember him being
smart.
good. Yeah.
So another guy, you think about tough guys in the NHL, like Wayne Simmons.
Oh yeah.
The guy is skinny.
Yeah, he's a wire.
Little.
Yeah.
Like tall, like
Yeah.
6'2", 6'3".
That wiry slingshot
He
arms.
can't. What is he gonna do?
Yeah.
No, he does.
Yeah.
He does. He takes on the heavyweights. So my point of that is that you don't know who the guy is. A guy can, and a lot of times a guy looks real tough and stuff, and they're not. Their bark's big, but their bite's nothing. So you just don't know. That's my point. You don't know.
Yeah.
And if you're measuring someone up, you go to hit someone, I'll take care of this guy, and he might be a 5'8", but he's a fire plug and he can hammer you. Well, that didn't go well. So you just have to be ready for it all the time, and you have to be able to do it. The fighting part, you never know who it is. So, for example, like Charlie, I was telling you, playing that role. Now, I think if Will Cully was to play that game again and know that he was like, he's a tough guy. He played in the American League last year. He's what is he? 3 inches and
A big boy.
20 pounds heavier, 30 pounds heavier than Chooch. Anyways, it was a play in the game. No one's out there going, okay, I'm not going to hit you because you're 15.
Right.
I can't hit you because you're 19
That's
and you're
right.
playing the American League. You're playing hockey.
It's a play in the game.
So in that moment in time, and this is what I always told Charlie, is get your stick up and be ready at any moment. So we have a captain, a really good hockey player, that signed NHL hockey player, makes contact, and he goes to Charlie, and boom, and Charlie goes back, and it's like, it's go time.
Yep.
Do you know how, because you were standing beside me, do you know how happy I was that I knew that my son could handle himself?
For sure.
Do you know how happy I was that Dalton Prout and Zach Cassian have spent so much time with my son, and that we've done this, and my brother, the boxer, and all this stuff, that he actually knows how to throw a punch, and he knows how to maybe grab a jersey and have
protect himself a little bit.
and tuck the chin in. And I'm not saying that and I'm not promoting my son's a tough guy. I'm not doing that. But was prepared for that. If he didn't if he went into there and said, well, I'm going to get my first fight, or have the tentativeness. And my brother told him, he helped him with that. He says, on a dime, if you're going to do it, do it.
Yeah. If
not, do not do it, because you're going to get killed.
Yep.
Because on a dime, if it's go time, it's go time, and you just go with a little bit of intelligence. And I was just so thankful, dude. Because as a dad now, like I've been doing this since I'm 2 years old. Now as a dad, it's like it's not fun watching your son get punched in the face. Just so everybody knows, when everyone goes and cheers, like I know fights are awesome, but when your kid is doing it and he takes one here, it's a different feeling that you'll ever have.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Well, I remember my parents saying that about me. My mom would cry.
But anyways, the point is that it's part of the game, and it only helps you if you can at least stand in there. The guy he fought wasn't sitting there going, "Oh, I shouldn't have done this. You're too young."
That's right.
And Charlie didn't say, "Oh, you're too old." It's part of hockey. It is what it is. That's what the guys used to say to me. You want to play in this league, you better play in the league. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You play in the league, and that means every part of it.
Well, and I think one of maybe a philosophy might be generalizing a little bit, but what I remember from playing minor hockey, going into junior, and then going into higher levels, the younger you are, the guys that act tough there's generally a lot of bullshit because not a lot of guys have experience doing anything.
Yeah.
So if you can get a little bit of an edge with having some jam piece, a lot of times in junior, a lot of bark, like you said, a lot of bark, not a lot of bite. A lot of guys will back down, and the ability to just stand in there and throw, a lot of times is enough to beat kids as you're at that when you're at lower levels. As you get into higher levels now, the guys that are still doing that, the guys that are still barking, they probably got some bite now, right? So,
they bite, but there's no teeth.
Yeah. Well, this is just to your point though of how you were saying you don't know who knows what.
Yeah.
So just you need to be prepared.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to go in there barking and you can't hold your own, some guy's going to crack you.
Yeah.
On the flip side, when you're young and you're tentative and you're nervous and whatever, and you need to try to get into that a little bit, because it's good for your game to have some of that.
Mm-hmm.
You want to have a clue first before you go into that. But then just getting into it, it's not as bad as it sounds or as it might feel going into it, especially when you're young, because no one's real experienced in doing it yet. So you'll probably be okay if you have somewhat of a clue, like you said. But you need to have somewhat of a clue. Yeah. So whether
I've had my face smashed in. It's not the end of the world.
No, it's okay. Actually, don't really feel it too much until the next day.
Yeah, you just don't want to be looking up at the lights.
No, that's right.
Or breaking a jaw.
Yeah. Good. Is that are you wrapped up on all that, or what do you got?
Are you?
Yeah, I got one more thing I wanted to just
you go and then well, okay, just on the physical side, like maybe I'll just wrap it up on my side.
Sure.
I was going to say for smaller players or people that aren't physical, how can you still be physical? One thing that you could always do is learn how to run interference all over the place, just getting in the way. So like when you're back checking neutral zone and stuff like that, instead of just coming back, like maybe there's a guy that's trying to get to a lane. If you can just kind of like you're not getting in, just getting in front of them a little bit. Mm-hmm. Just that's a little bit of contact that helps your team out, and learn how to box out. So what I mean by that is in your D zone, especially, is when guys are running around your zone, like your toes should be up the ice most of the time, or you're on the defensive side of the puck, let's say, is when anytime someone's coming near you or driving the net, is you just get in contact with them and you impede their process. It's not holding, but just those short jabs just to box guys out, so to make their job harder. And it's a real effective way to be effective without being totally physical, but you're in it a little bit.
Good.
Does that make sense?
Totally.
And I think that's probably all I got.
Okay, so last one that I wanted to finish off on, and we kind of been touching it a little bit, but just I want to reiterate the message again. So now switch over to more of a player.
Yeah.
If you aren't someone who's particularly physical, but you know now, at least from hearing this, that these are kind of some elements you need to have in your game to play, what's like maybe some advice you would give to kind of get over the barrier of maybe being scared of doing it, or strategies to start to implement it in your game? Maybe like, you talk about your 3 things. Let's say 3 things you could do to try to start implementing that into your game. So you can, if you're a kid that maybe you're a skill player and you'll be a pick next year in the draft, and then you're on a 3rd, 4th line role, but you're not someone who's got a big frame that can go play that physical game. What are like 3 things you can maybe start to do in your own game that can maybe develop that part a little bit?
I'm just going to see if I can come up with 3, but the thing is that you better find something, because if you're not putting pucks in the net, you got to do something.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to lie, if you can't have some physicality or some real good defensive side to it, then you're probably not going to get a chance. So you have to learn, like a period. So definitely finish your checks, meaning cutting off hands and hitting pins. Like definitly that. Like if you can't do that, you'll never play. You have to do it.
Yeah.
And then or the next thing is be able to take hits. So either rolling off of hits on the walls and stuff like that.
So you think separating puck?
Yep.
Big one.
Yeah.
Being willing to go through
and separating pucks and being like work your ass off at learning how to strip pucks.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
Like work your ass off to strip pucks, so that maybe it takes away a little bit of the physicality.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And
then being able to go through the hits, taking the hits, not shying away from that.
Yeah, you have to.
And then maybe the 3rd one I'll throw on that is that when you're talking about how to protect yourself, like little strategies you can do in the game, it'll add a physical element your game without having to like run around and be a huge
Yeah.
checker, whether it's the hands thing or bracing for the hit first. But those little contact things, like one thing I remember, and you were talking about this a bit about running interference and stuff, and a kid that I played with, I don't know if you'll remember him. He played for the Spits. His name Michael Clark was his name, and he
Trained him a little bit.
yeah,
from London.
so he played London, and I remember playing against him, and he did one of the smart. He wasn't a big guy, and
No,
wasn't super
skinny.
physical, skinny guy.
And if you walked in here right now, there's nothing intimidating about him.
But he was really effective. And I remember one thing he did that was so smart, and I've told you about this. Running, I was trying to join the rush on a odd man play or whatever, and he was my guy back checking on me, and he choked up on the knob of his stick a little bit and just got it in my hip as we're skating together, so nobody can see it.
Yeah.
And it was just enough. He's just giving me a little tug just to slow me down a little bit.
Yeah.
And there's little things like that where that's a physical play. Like he just made a physical play on me as someone who's not a very physical player.
Yep.
And there's little things like that you can do, whether it's running interference or ways you're using your stick to be physical and be effective, whether it's separating puck, absorbing hits, or like how to protect yourself. I'd say those maybe are the three. Start to put that in your game a little bit, especially if you're a guy that isn't overly physical. Those are probably three things you can start to work on.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is that you have to, like, here's the one thing I would say, and you could, it talks cheap and you can talk all day about not being scared. Fear is an actual real thing. It's a real thing. Everybody has it. Anybody that says that don't have fear is full of shit. It's just about managing it or facing them, or I guess those would be the words: managing them and facing them. Fear is real, and when you're scared or you're facing fear, it's all it means is that you just don't know what's on the other side of it, right? It's fear is usually fear of the unknown. So if you're going out there and you're really tentative and you're scared to do something, like, the answer is to go do it. I'm not saying go fight, but it's go start initiating some contact. And what you're going to find out is that the things that we worry about, like fears especially, things that we worry about, 95% of them don't even come true. And when they happen, it's never as bad as we thought it would be. Not never. Most of the time, it's never as bad as it would be. So it would be important to have some contact and realize that, okay, this is just part of the game. And the other side of it is, like, when you're addressing fear, is what you have to understand. This is something I realized when I got traded. Is in Sudbury we had a pretty tough team, but you get used to your guys, right? And this is why one of the questions the guy said in practice, it seems like they're okay, but in games it's a lot different. Here's why. When you're in your room with your guys, you know your guys and you understand, okay, he is tough. He's all right. You start getting used to guys and your friends, and the fear factor goes down. When you look across the ice, there's stories, right? Because I remember playing the Hamilton Steelhawks my first couple of times, and they were known because Bill LaForge was the coach, and every coach's team was a goon squad, and every year they had a few brawls. So you'd go into Hamilton, the old Mountain Arena, or they come in there, and it'd be like, you knew it was going to be ugly. Dennis Vial and Paul Laus, and they just went down to Kirk Tomlinson, all these tough guys. So you get to these games and you start thinking about it, right? That's what fear is. You start thinking about something that hasn't happened yet. What happens when you start thinking about it, it becomes bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's like, oh, your nerves, right? You're not living in the moment. So then you get into the game and you play, and whatever happens, and some guys react, some guys don't. Anyways, my point is, I got traded to the Hamilton Steelhawks. So I go into that room and I'm thinking, man, these guys are going to be like a bunch of tough guys. And you know what it was? It was the exact same room that it was in Sudbury, and it was the exact same room that I ever played in. You have a couple guys that are like very, very tough, but it's the same room. And you know how everybody else is feeling? The exact same way as you. Everyone's the same. So you got guys that are just tough guys that are just tough guys that are physical. That's just the way they're built. They're rough and tough, and the stick could be an axe. Doesn't matter. It's the same thing. Yeah. There's guys that are a little bit softer, a little bit more skilled. Everyone's the same. Everyone's the same. So when you think that you're different, you're not. Everyone's the exact same, and every dressing room is pretty much the same. And it's just a matter of going out there and it's the same. And so, final point on this. I want to lose for someone that wants to get in shape. Okay, it's just an analogy. If you want to get in shape, you don't just go to the gym and you get in shape in a week. It starts off by making a decision. So number one is decision. Number two is some action. So you go out there and you start whatever type of workout it is, and the results aren't going to be there, but you know you did something. So then if you do that consistently and persistently for a period of time, you see results, and it becomes part of you. If you go in the hockey game, if you're not a physical player, if you start just making some contact, you're not going to blow guys up probably. You're not going to feel real proud of yourself like that you're a tough guy or that you're now a physical player. But if you start making contact every shift, just bumps and sticks and do the little things, taking away time and space, you build a confidence. And over a month, 2 months, over time, it's the same thing as working out. The results become there, and it just becomes part of you. And the fear goes away because you realize, okay, everybody's the same, and this is what it is. It's not that bad.
Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Good finish there. If we got any, I think that was helpful. Hopefully that was helpful to Nick and people listening. If you have any follow-up on that, let us know. Any other specific questions, and we'll deal with it on the next one. Bye, everybody.